What's up guys, David here and welcome to FitPro Daily. This week is all about understanding your audience, looking at your prospects and looking at your clients when they're staying with you and how we can keep them for the long term. We started off yesterday with Tanya coming on to explain and share her knowledge on understanding your target audience, speaking their language and really nailing your niche. Today though, I'm going to give you 5 things I consider super important in regards to really understanding your client's language, really understanding your niche. So the content that you come up with, the sales pitches that you present, everything that you do is designed specifically for your audience. But before I do dive into today's episode, if you haven't already subscribed, press pause, press subscribe, and then let's dive into tip number 1. Okay, let's dive in. So to really understand your target audience, we first need to start getting a lot of information about them. And the way I used to do this and the way I still do it now with anything I want to go into is I take notes. When I'm doing sales consultations, when I'm listening to clients just chat in the gym, when I'm literally just scrolling through Facebook and I'm seeing somebody talk about the target audience that I'm talking about or that I'm working with, I take notes. The more notes you can take, the more information, the more keywords, the more insights you have into what that prospect or your target audience really wants to achieve. So every time you sit down for a consultation and they're telling you what they want, why they want it, why is now a good time to start, what it is they really want to achieve, if you write all this stuff down, that gives you automatic content to start talking about right away. So tip number 1, take notes wherever possible, and then use those notes as your future content reference. Okay, tip number 2. Now, tip number 2 is all about asking the right questions. So when you're sat down having this consultation with a prospect and you're asking them, what is it you're looking to achieve? Make sure the questions that you're asking are beneficial and they're going to give you the answers that you want. When you're out on the gym floor, ask questions that are going to give you the answers that you need. So instead of just asking, how was your day? Maybe ask them, what has your day been like with your food so far? Get them to give you a little bit more on a specific topic that you want to focus on. If you want to know why prospects joined, ask them, what was it that made you want to join the program? They'll give you a load of information. Again, that is great content for you to use, start posting out there to really get people interested. Ask them, what is it you're working towards at the minute? Not only is that going to give you great content, but that's also going to help you benefit keeping them for the long term because you're resetting their goals at the same time. So number 2, ask plenty of questions. Tip number 3, and this is something we do every quarter. We put a survey out to all the members to find out how they've been getting on, what they think of the program, and what more we can offer them. Now, when we used to do this, we just would ask the question and give a blank box for them to type all their answers to. Now the thing with that gives you a lot of different confusing bits of information. The way you might interpret it might be a bit different. So what we do now when we ask and do these surveys, we mark it 1 to 5. And these questions are based on our core values, which we're going to talk about later. So we ask specific questions that asks them to rate us between 1 and 5, 5 obviously being the best, 1 being dreadful. And that gives us an idea of what we need to work on at the studio or at the service to give them the best possible results. Again, that gives you an idea of what content to write about or what to deliver to your clients in order to give them a better experience. Then at the end, we do give them a chance. We just ask any final thoughts or ideas or suggestions, and that lets them write a little bit more. But when we do the surveys, it's 1 to 5 rating. That then gives us a great insight into what's working and what's not, and not let them write a load of text, which might be a little bit confusing. So if we look at number 4 now, if you don't really have many clients, you're not really doing many surveys, or not asking enough questions, and you're really struggling for content ideas, then the best thing to do is have a look where your prospects hang out. So if they hang out on Facebook, in Facebook groups, can we go and join those Facebook groups to see what they're chatting about? If prospects buy a certain type of magazine, can you go and buy a copy of that magazine and have a look what's been talked about in that magazine? If prospects watch a certain TV program or a certain channel, have a look at what they're watching, talk about that stuff. Again, have a look where your prospects hang out, because that's going to give you a great insight into what's going on in their mind, what conversations they're having, who else is hanging out in that area as well. It's going to give you a great insight into your prospects. And tip number 5. Now, we mentioned this earlier when we talked about surveys, but this is creating core values. Now you've asked these questions, now you've taken notes, now you've surveyed, now you really understand what your prospects need and want, and what your clients need to keep progressing and staying with you. It's now time to create core values. Core values is what your business runs towards. So for us, when we put the surveys out, the surveys are asking about each core value and getting clients to rate us on each of the core values. Do they feel welcomed when they arrive at the session? Are the sessions all challenging enough? Do they feel safe and welcomed at the studio? We ask these questions because those give us the perfect answers into how well we're performing, how well and comfortable the client feels, and how likely they are to stay with us for the long term. That also gives you great insight and great confidence in the content that you can write. Because you could say, we've put a survey out to 100 of our clients. They all came back as 5 stars, that they feel welcome at the studio. That's great content for you to talk about there. Plus, you know you're doing a great job on that section. But how do they feel supported outside of the session? If that's come back as 3, that gives you an insight into what you need to work on in order to keep clients to stay with you for longer, working on the outside of session support to keep them staying with you. Okay, those were 5 ways to generate content, to generate ideas, to figure out how you can generate new leads and clients, plus ways to keep clients for longer, especially when we start looking at core values and surveying clients to really see how they're progressing, how you're doing as a business or as a service in order to want to keep them for longer. So maybe try a few of these, especially the survey and the core value ones. It will really benefit the business in the long term. I'm going to leave it there for today. Any questions or any comments, as usual, do let us know below. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe below, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Cheers.